So, again, point was when you have a good credit score, you can be approved faster than when you don't have a good credit score. Now, this particular practice may not be fair, and it's not all the time. I mean, if you walk into the furniture store and it's 7 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, it's not a whole bunch of applications coming across the threshold. But on a Saturday, when there's a huge sale and they're sending it to one office, what have you, these are the kind of things that happen. So that's a little bit of inside baseball, how it works on the financing end, how it can work for you, and another reason to have yet another good credit score. Just another reason to do that. All right, so it's about time for the question of the day. Let's jump into the question of the day, and I'm going to give a couple of shout outs as well. Darnell and Alicia Gaffney celebrated in the wedding anniversary, so I want to say happy anniversary to you guys. Tiffany Brand had a birthday, so happy birthday to you, Tiffany. Shauna Vaughn had a birthday as well, so happy birthday, Shauna Vaughn. And let's go ahead and get to the question of the day. So the question of the day comes from Kay. Kay is out of Illinois. And if you have a question, you can contact me. I think Kay sent me a question over something. I don't know. I think it might have been Instagram. She sent me a question, or maybe she inboxed me on Facebook. But this question came from Kay out of Illinois. And she says, do you have to file your dispute with each credit bureau? Great question. Great question. In a word, yes. You've got to file your disputes with each credit bureau. So if you're doing it yourself, you file them all at once. Periodically, if it's an iffy one, personally for me and my clients, if it's an iffy one, I would try, one credit bureau first. Typically TransUnion, just because I find their online process a little easier. So iffy meaning if I'm not sure if it's going to come off or not, or there are a couple of reasons that it could be considered to come off your credit report. So you got 2, 3 reasons that it could possibly come off your credit report, was what I mean by iffy, or if it might not come off your credit report at all. I might just do it with one first, see how the credit bureau reacts, and then maybe file with the other ones. And typically, like I said, I use TransUnion first because I just like their online process. Yes. So to answer your question, yes, the 3 credit bureaus are all separate companies. They don't talk to each other about disputes. Unfortunately, sometimes 1 or 2 will agree to remove what you filed as a dispute, and one of them won't. So I never understood why that is. So if you don't know, the dispute process works like this. So here it is. You file a dispute. You file it with all 3. The 3 individual companies contact the creditor. The creditor sends back the same information to all 3 credit bureaus. Then the credit bureaus decide if it should go or if it should stay on your credit report. Well, for example, so TransUnion and Experian say it should go off your credit report. Equifax should also take it off your credit report, right? Because they received the exact same information. Every once in a while, the bureaus disagree and the disputed item doesn't come off of all 3. So it could be coming off of TransUnion and Experian, but Equifax chooses to keep it on your credit report. I know it's unfair. It's ridiculous. I know it is. But if you want me to tell you the truth about what happens, or do you want me to sugarcoat it? And so that happens too often. It happens. Now, when it does happen, what I would do if I were you, I would call that 3rd credit bureau that didn't take it off. I would call them. I wouldn't send them a letter. I would call them. You can call each and every one of them. Don't call on Mondays and don't call on Fridays. They're always extra busy. Your wait time is going to be ridiculous. But I would give them a call and talk to them and say, hey, Mr. Equifax, TransUnion and Experian took it off my credit report. I know you guys received the same information. Why do you deem that it should stay on my credit report versus coming off? So that's what you want to do. You want to give them a call, talk to them, and see what they say. Maybe they take it off. Maybe there was not necessarily an error, but they misinterpreted something, and that's the reason it stayed on your credit report. But these kinds of things happen. But yes, you do have to file your dispute with all 3 credit bureaus to get it to come off, or just to even have the investigation. You've got to file it with all 3: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. So Kay from Illinois, thank you so very, very much for contacting me. I appreciate it. You too can contact me. Send me an email, 800 at creditscoreman.com. You are officially a part of the 800 Credit Score Man Show family. All right, so let's jump back into the show and end this out for today. So let me throw a couple more shout outs right quick. Jonathan McCorker, he celebrated a birthday earlier this week. Ian Adams and Jeremy Morris celebrated birthdays. Both of those guys are my frat brothers, so happy birthday to you guys. And Ian Adams and Jeremy Morris, they celebrated birthdays. And Marcella Griffin and Drew Manning actually share a birthday, which is coming up in this September the 11th. So happy birthday to Drew Manning and Marcella Griffin as well. All right, so we were talking about the cost of credit for you guys. So I'm going to give you a hard example, a real life hard example of what credit costs you right quick. So I was looking up to see what's the most sold car in America. And to my surprise, because it doesn't seem like I see them on the road that often, it is a common car, but not that often, a Toyota Camry. Toyota Camry was the most sold car in 2017, I think even 2016, and early part of 2018, the Toyota Camry. The average price for a Toyota Camry is $25,000. So we're going to use that as our baseline. Now, it's not the most sold vehicle. The most sold vehicle happens to be the Ford F-150 as the most sold vehicle, but we're going to deal off of this car. So $25,000, all right? So let's say you got good credit. You did that whole thing I told you about. You went to the bank, you went to the next bank, and all that kind of stuff. You got a 4% rate. You got a 4% rate off of this $25,000 car. You're going to finance it on 60 months. When you do it that way, with good credit, right? You got good credit score, then at the end of the day, your payment, first of all, your payment's going to be $460 a month. Just so you know, some people were out there looking at cars, they cost $38,000. We think we're going to get it for $500 a month. Probably not. So you got a $25,000 car, 4% interest rate. You're going to finance it over 60 months, which is 5 years, and you're going to pay in interest. You're going to pay a little over $2,600 in interest. So at the end of the day, you pay $2,600. That's the cost of credit for you. So that's the cost of credit for you. That's a person with good credit. 4% rate for a vehicle is actually not bad at all. All right. So then I have less than 4%. I know other people that have less than 4%, but that's not a bad rate at all. But I know a whole bunch of people that pay with interest rates way more than 4%. So let's look at somebody that obviously didn't have really good credit, or they got took by the bank or the dealership because they got a much higher interest rate. So let's say you walk in, same car, Toyota Camry, $25,000 is at the end of the day. That's what you made your deal for, and you have a 9% interest rate. So you got a 9% interest rate, same 60 months. I think with the 4%, we said you pay $460 a month. Here you're paying $519. So basically, you're paying another $60 roughly per month for the same vehicle as somebody with a lower interest rate. So at the end of the day, that $60 difference over those 60 months, you're going to wind up paying $6,100 for your vehicle. You pay $6,100 for your vehicle in interest. That's what you're paying. When you had the 4% rate, that person paid $2,600 when it came down to at the end of the day. They paid $2,600. So $2,600 versus paying $6,100 in interest by having that 4% rate versus the 9% rate. So you really see the difference in there. Frankly, that's a 235% difference between the two. So you pay more than double in interest because you have you have a bad credit score. So that's what happens to you. And unfortunately, a lot of people that can't afford to pay the additional money are the people that get stuck with the higher interest rates. And it doesn't matter how much money you make. That doesn't determine at all what your credit score is. Not one iota does that determine what your credit score is. You can work at Home Depot, or you can be in a C-suite working for a hospital and make a whole bunch of money, or a professor, or anything that makes a lot of money, and you have a bad credit score and you pay more. Something that might not bother somebody that has a lot of money and are able to pay their bills. But when you need to save each and every penny to make sure that you have all the things in life that you need and or want, It makes a big difference. So get your credit scores up for sure. Keep listening to the 800 Credit Score Man show. So we looked at it on the car realm, right? So you can see how much you pay. $6,100 in interest on a vehicle. That's a lot of interest to be paying on a vehicle, and that was just at 9%. I have way too many clients that came to me afterwards that are paying well over 9%. Especially if you buy a used car. You buy a used car with bad credit, man, they kill you with interest. I'm talking 20%. And some of you guys have never even heard that. But yes, you can pay 20%. You can pay 23% on a vehicle. So it's almost like putting it on a credit card, which is not a smart thing to do. All right. So make sure that you govern yourselves accordingly when it comes to that. Let's look at mortgages then. So we looked at a car. All right, you might pay, $2,700, $2,100 for interest, whatever that is. You might do that. But let's look at a mortgage and how it'll absolutely affect you. First of all, you're going to pay lower interest rates when it comes to mortgages anyway. For the most part, you're going to do that just because that's a stable place. You're going to be there supposedly for 30 years or 15 years, however you finance your particular mortgage. You're going to be there a while, and it's a lot of money. So the interest rates are a little bit lower, not necessarily a whole bunch at this particular point in our history. So I looked up what's the average cost of a home in the United States, and that was $200,000. So we're going to use that as our baseline. So $200,000 home, interest rate of 3.9. Let's do 3.9. I don't know what's the deal with mortgage places, but it's never like 4%. It's always 3.9, 3.72, or 3.85, something like that. So let's go with 3.9 as an interest rate over 30 years. You're going to do it over 30 years, right? So then at the end of the day, and this might shock you, and it always shock people, especially first-time home buyers, when they go in and they're signing that paperwork. You bought a $200,000 home, and then you get down to the end over there, and it says how much you're going to pay for the home all together. At the end of the day, if you stay there 30 years, never refinance. So on $200,000 with a 3.9% interest rate over 30 years, at the end of the day, you're going to pay about $140,000 in interest. Now you got good credit. You paying $140,000 in interest. The home only costs $200,000, but that's the way it works. It's just simply the way it works. So then let's look at somebody that has bad credit. Now it's not like a vehicle where that person had 3.5, so they're going to double it or triple it, whatever the interest rate's going to be. That's not really how it works. It's not that much more when you have low credit scores. And you can be approved for a home right now with a 580. That's a very low credit score. I don't suggest that you go in somebody's place looking for a loan. If you've got a 580, I suggest you spend 6 months trying to improve your credit score. I'm telling you, 40 points will make a huge difference for you. 60 points will make a really good difference. And if you can get it up 100 points, man, it's a whole different world, whole different ball game when you're dealing with mortgages and how much money you're going to pay at the end of the day. So let's take this mortgage, $200,000. The other person got a what? They got a 3.9% rate. We're only going to do a little over a 0.5% more. So we're going to make it 4.5. They got a 4.5% rate because you had lower credit, whatever that score is. You got a 4.5% interest rate. It's on 30 years as well. Again, $200,000 home. You're going to pay about $165,000 in interest for this particular home. You got $200,000 home. You and a guy across the street. Y'all get the same home. Y'all in the same neighborhood. Houses basically cost the same, right? $200,000. That one you're going to pay $165,000 in interest on that particular home. Now the other people with the 3.9 is only a 0.6 difference between the two. But here's how you got to think about it when you are looking for a home. When somebody tells you, oh, here's the rate that you're going to pay, you always got to push back. Because every percentage point, especially on something as big as a home, is going to make a huge difference for you. So the 3.9% interest rate, the person with the good credit, they paid $140,000, basically, about $140,000. But the person with the 4.5, they paid $165,000. Same house. Now, aren't you mad? Aren't you mad at yourself if you let that happen to you? So you need to make sure that you get your credit score up so you don't have to deal with these things. And you can roll on in life getting things for little or nothing or less than the next person. Everybody wants a deal. Everybody wants a deal. Nobody wants to play retail. Everybody want to wait for